We're here.
Hello.
Welcome to Vitals and Virtues, everybody. Special welcome and thank you to Robert Lewis.
Glad to be here.
I can't say Robert. Maybe Robert, but not. Anyways, we've got the one and only Robby Lewis here to talk about de-escalation on the Vitals and Virtues.
Glad to be here.
Yeah? Are you? You look nervous, man.
I'm a little nervous. Don't do this.
You got to talk into the
only.
mic. You got to talk into the mic, remember? 6 inches.
Oh, 6 inches. Okay. Yeah.
Try not to make any weird jokes about that. Look, this is a family show, okay? I say as I'm holding my drink. Robby is sipping on some coffee and some water. I have water, but I also have some whiskey and Grand Marnier. I'm sure it's a mixed drink that's got a name somewhere, but we're here, man.
Yeah. It's
at Maltos Benianos.
a little late in the evening, but it's good.
That's right.
Free time.
And Vitam Eternum. Yeah, man.
Nothing better to do?
Yeah, nothing better. Yeah, this has been a long... I mean, Robby might not know it, but I've been, long time coming. I've been hoping to get Robby on this show before, but he's a busy man.
Yeah, I stay busy every day.
You do.
There's always something going on.
Yeah, so what... So we're going to talk about de-escalation here soon, but, why should you guys value Robby's opinion anyways? Let's hear, how did you get in? A couple questions that people have is how you ended up in healthcare, because few people might know this. At one time, you were actually a chef.
Yes, I did. I worked for several different companies in Lynchburg. I guess the biggest chain was O'Charlie's, and I was set up to be like a kitchen manager, and I just didn't want to move away from home. I had too much too much help with family and stuff to move away. And anyway, it was sort of to prove a point to my ex-wife, because my son kept getting a runny nose, a little fever, and she thought it was appropriate to take him to the emergency department. And, the first time I was like, okay, yeah, well, maybe we should. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the second time I was like, no, this is...
We've moved away from O'Charlie's. We're now at why he went into healthcare.
Well, I took an EMT class,
okay.
And I enjoyed it so much while I was still working at O'Charlie's that it prompted me to take a job at the hospital, and I was able to move out of that and sort of start a career.
Yeah.
Next was a paramedic.
So what year did you go to EMT school?
Oh, man, that would have been... I couldn't even tell you. The math is incredibly bad.
Hang on a second. I got to make sure your mic is right. All right. Oh. But anyways, yeah, so you went into the EMS world.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Saw that there was a future in it.
And how old were you? This was 48 years ago?
Probably like 22.
You were 22 at the time?
Well, yeah, because I'm turning 44 this year.
Oh, yeah.
So that would be like 22.
So
22 years old.
My post to get some marketing out there, I'd said that you had been doing this for over 20 years, I think. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's been doing it for that long.
I've been I've been in healthcare for at least 21 years solid.
Yeah.
Every weekend for the most part.
Every weekend.
At least for 10 months out the year.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I try to take a little time for myself.
Yeah. But you're not, so when people hear you just work the weekends, most people who are listening to this probably already know you and know that you work in the hospital, and you also have 28 different side hustles that could be a main gig, probably.
I stay busy. Yeah, that's how I entertain myself.
Yeah.
I just, every day I fill it with something, no matter what it can be, where it's at. But, yeah, today I was out farming.
Yeah, because you have Lewis Farms over in Appomattox?
Yeah, Lewis Farms, Appomattox, Virginia. Yeah, that's where my family and everybody is. We're all right there. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much just 5 or 6 of us, 7 of us, I think, total. Mm-hmm. And we all sort of do different things, but beef is their main thing. That's what I do. And
you don't just have any old beef. You have...
I have an Angus Wagyu cross.
I thought that, but they're mostly Wagyu at this point?
Well, yeah, I'm into the 3/4. I've got a couple that are full bloods.
Nice.
And it's planning for the future.
Mm-hmm.
It takes about 5 to 8 years to sort of get things moved over to the next generation. But yeah, I'm certainly moving along, doing pretty good with that.
Nice.
And really good. Really happy with that.
Yeah. I was talking to the nurses the other day about the time you brought I think, I don't remember if they're Wagyu or not, but you brought in the burger,
that was
the burger truck essentially, and grilled us all up some good old food.
That was some of my stuff.
Yeah, that was like some of the best burgers I think I've ever had. And, the perks of being a supervisor. What did you cooked us something special. I don't remember what it was though. Some kind of steak.
Oh, a ribeye probably?
Maybe. It
New
was
York
so
strip,
good.
something?
It like just fell apart. It was so freaking good.
Yeah.
So good.
It's only gotten better.
Yeah, I know. So anybody that needs to get some good beef, Robby's your man. Lewis Farms over in Appomattox. They don't sponsor the show.
But yeah, they're a good way to help me understand how to de-escalate problems because they just don't listen sometimes.
You can talk down a cow. You can talk down a...
Yeah, they don't listen to just any old kind of language. Sometimes you do need to curse at them. They are very therapeutic to curse at. But yeah, if you can deal with them, you can sort of deal with anything. Chasing them up and down the road, waking up to them being out.
Yeah, how many? You got good neighbors that are like, "Hey, Robby, cows."
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't.
Have you ever woken up to or found any of your cattle in the middle of the road? Whacked.
No.
Thank goodness.
I have not. I have.
Well, that's good. Your fences must be at least somewhat decent.
I put a lot of effort into them. I can tell you that. Every day I put effort into making it better and better.
Yeah.
And every day something fails.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, 2 days ago, I'm sorry. One of my trucks that I move hay with, 2 wheels popped on the same side. I just got that fixed today. That was one of my day's tasks.
Yeah, there's always something breaking on a farm.
I went to go bush hog, like I was telling you.
Yeah.
Didn't realize how much fuel bush hogging takes in a tractor.
Mm-hmm.
Went to run, got about 15 minutes in, realized I was out of fuel. I thought I was full of fuel like 2 days ago.
Yeah, man, it's not cheap.
Well, just the fact that it was running so.
Yeah.
That's how my day went. I went over there to do that. No fuel.
So
I just had to move on to something else.
So just bigger, more expensive problems. The last was Monday or Tuesday. I'm cutting grass, and I've got Ada, my daughter, on my lap. We're cutting grass and trying to get close to the house, and I managed to bump. It's also really challenging. Like she's getting big enough to where she can't quite just be on her own on the lawnmower with me. Like I still have to hold her pretty securely. So working a steering wheel and holding a 2-year-old is just not very easy anymore. So we're going up next to the house, and I couldn't turn it fast enough, and I ended up running right up into the house, the brick, and it blew a tire off, the front tire off. I'm like, daggone it. So then I have to go and put the tire back on. And it's a lawnmower. You can do it with a ratchet strap and an air compressor easy enough. So did that. And then Ada decided she didn't want to ride in the lawnmower with me anymore at that point. She wanted to play with the kittens. And then Jude's like, well, I want to ride. So we get up and we're cutting grass in the front yard. And the cable that hits the lever to the mower deck breaks. It's cool. There's literally always some dumb little problem that just shows up.
But yeah, you're talking about de-escalation. I think a lot of de-escalation is knowing yourself first.
Oh, you got to.
Knowing what ticks you off, what doesn't, what you can handle, what you can't. Knowing your resources, people who are better suited for the job.
Yeah.
When there's certain incidents and certain types of problems. So it comes in all different shapes and sizes and different forms, and you've got to individualize everything.
Yeah, it has to be a custom approach to each little thing. What all right, before we get away from farming, I gotta bring this up because I know you get a kick out of it every time we talk about it. When we were working in Lynchburg together, I grew up baling hay with my in-laws and stuff, and I was like, Robbie's, for whatever reason, decided, Leo, you're a decent kid. I'll take you under my wing. And they're like, yeah, come on over and you can help me bale hay. I was like, yeah, I'll be over after work. So I showed up at your house one morning. I slept on your couch till the dew dried off the field. And then you had me, I don't remember if I was cutting. I think I was cutting at a rake, maybe raking.
You would have been raking. Yeah, you were raking.
So I've been I slept for, from 7:45 or 8 to maybe 10 or so. And then I'm out on the tractor till, who knows, Robbie had checked on me, but I was on the tractor for a little while. And I remember trying to communicate to you when you and your brother
looked like you were dancing out there in the field.
Well, that's what you say.
Standing up in the tractor without a shirt on, somewhere out in the middle of the hayfield, on the tractor, just looks like he's dancing.
I mean, look, sometimes you just got to.
It's all about perception, man.
The way the tractor chugs along, you can kind of get a rhythm, a little beat going on.
That's the rhythm of life. Yeah.
Look, Robbie's just trying to give me all the hot takes that I can get. Just clip it.
No.
Oh, that was a good time. We also went elk hunting. I'm trying to
Yes, we have been elk hunting.
We've done all kinds of fun stuff, and it's about 10 years.
Leo was there for the year that we did get some elk. We had a good year.
Did we get it?
That was Josh's elk, yeah, the massive elk.
Oh yeah, but we didn't.
We didn't get it while you were there.
Yeah.
But we did get it.
Well, there was one.
I also took one, and that was the year that you and Steinweg were together.
Yeah, that was a.
Yeah, we found both elk on the next day.
Yeah, we spent a long day tracking them beasts.
Yeah.
Gosh, I tracked my steps. Man, that was one of the best trips.
That was a good trip.
The last night, I wish we had done this is somewhat funny. We were out there for a week. I was going from my staff job to travel and getting anxious about not hearing back from recruiters or whatever because I was on top of a mountain in Colorado. I probably need to get off so I can make some money and exist. So I only ended up staying out for a week. But man, was that a fun time? And I'm telling you, that last night, I think I probably still have the recording of us driving around in the truck.
The night we were
Tennessee Honey was
drunk.
Quite good.
Yeah, bugling in the back of a pickup truck.
Who was it?
Driving up and
I
down
think
the mountain.
Philip was driving. He was the only one that hadn't been drinking, and he takes the bugle out of Steinweg's hand because Steinweg was blowing it right in his ear. Philip took it and chucked it, but
into the abyss.
Yeah. Well, what was funny about it too is there was the forest
the mountain
fires.
was on fire.
Yeah,
the mountain was on fire.
You could, when we got to the top, we could look over to the San Juan Mountains, which are in Utah, I think, right?
Yes.
And then you could see the ember, it just looked like it was pretty cool looking, but also a little alarming when you're like, it's kind of smoky up here, guys.
Yeah. I think that was one of the reasons we had such good luck that year is that they were pushing all the trophy oak out of the unit that was sort of on fire, and they were moving in the direction that we happened to be.
Yeah,
got lucky. So
yeah,
but elk hunting is tough work.
It is. It's the patience that it requires too. Was it Steinweg? He had hunted a couple spots, every day. There's all kinds of sign, and then he had that camera up. And I remember his last day, he was like, I'm not hunting the same spot again. And he went somewhere else, but the trail camera showed
right through there. Yeah.
Trail camera showed a herd of 20 or something go right through it.
Yeah, within getting range.
Mm-hmm. Right in front of the camera. I felt bad for the guy. But that was you got the man killer it's a mile straight up of that hill that you got to climb up to.
Yeah. Wow, man.
Rough times. Are you going back to the same place?
Yeah, we are going to go back. We're going to go archery hunting.
Nice.
We put in their tags because they make you get tags now. So you have to do it in April instead of just being over the counter.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they want to have a better count on everything and what to expect.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna do it. It's me, my brother, and then one other guy.
Nice.
Maybe a fourth. We may have a fourth.
Oh, nice.
But I'm not sure. I know it's the three of us.
That'll be a good time.
Yeah, it's gonna be a wild time.
Yeah.
Getting up there. I haven't done that in like 2 or 3 years. Maybe.
Yeah, you took to
maybe 2 years
cruises instead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to get your time off some kind of place, otherwise,
Yeah, I've got to get that far away to be able to cut off thinking about the farm. Otherwise, if something happened, I'll be like, oh man, I got to get back.
Yeah, that is true.
I get that far away, it's no getting back.
And you're like, well, I can't do anything about it from 2,000 miles away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That that reminded me of something that also just escaped my brain. Well, I'll think about it. But with the de-escalation stuff, because we could talk about all sorts of shenanigans for quite a while, but why you were in I'm circling back to EMS, did that for a while, enjoyed it enough, kind of learned some stuff, but you're also like, everybody, you're the de-escalation king at Southside. Why do you think that is? Like, everybody is like, oh, it's an OB disaster. Thank goodness Leo's on tonight. For you, I feel like, oh, there's all sorts of, like, just dumpster fires of people getting upset about this and that. Well, thank goodness Robby was on, because I don't want to deal with that.
Well, I'm glad whenever you or Megan or Ashley or somebody take the disasters that I don't have to deal with. It's always better to be like, man, I'm glad it was them and not me. But,
yeah.
When it's my turn, I just don't really think much about it. My entire life has been some sort of preparation with my encounters and, the way that I've lived and my experiences and things, that when I come across something, it's sort of run across it maybe before, and it's not really as, out of the ordinary as a lot of people might think, and it just becomes sort of easy because most of it, you can study it, you can think about it, you can plan for it.
Quit talking to the fridge, man.
But in the last
I need
second, you just make a decision.
The
and you just do something.
Yeah.
And go with it. And then that's how it is.
Yeah. Man, there's a time I was still working in the ER because I basically just tried to emulate Robby since I started working with you in Lynchburg. It's like, all right, I did 3 years and then I went to travel. Like, that was, I left, went on an elk hunt with you, and then we went to travel, and then you were like, hey, come to Southside. And I ended up at Southside and worked at ER. There was one night, there's this dude who had, like, run from the cops, wrecked his vehicle, and then claimed that he couldn't move his legs. And he was not giving us urine samples, said he couldn't go, he just couldn't, like, feel or whatever. And we're like, look, we're going to put a catheter in you because, like, this is unsafe and blah, blah, blah. He was, like, threatening us. And somehow, like, we go into this room, and it was sort of like a good cop, bad cop kind of deal. And I went in there trying to be nice to this guy, and you were, like, supposed to be the heavy on it. But he apparently liked you better and just started, like, cussing me out. And finally he's like, you're like, look, you pee in the jug, and we'll step out. You can pee in the jug and whatever. And he was my patient. I'm like going to go back in the room to get it, and he's like, if he comes back in here, I'm throwing this urinal at him. And I had it was like during COVID, so I had, like, the face shield on. I was like, I'm ready. I'll go in there and get it. He's like, no, I got this. But, like, man, like, but I feel like the whole need for de-escalation has increased so much. You could say COVID was a catalyst for it. Maybe.
People are just so divided in many different ways. Everybody's on the edge about something, and it's hard to relax and, just sort of let things be.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of people's, problems are, is they've got things to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're sort of focused on themselves or their family member.
Yeah.
And they don't have this sort of broader view,
mm-hmm.
where when it's not my problem, I can look at it from a broad view. And
Yeah,
I can
more
look
objectively.
at all of the components.
Yeah.
And I can sort of actively try to help when it's my turn.
Yeah.
And I can sort of be there and listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what most people want. They just want to be heard. Some things need to be tailored to them. Some things need to be unique. But in the majority of it, people just want to be heard. They want to be listened to in their role. Maybe you need that. You need to just go get them some pain medicine and help them with their pain and that crisis, and then they'll be as good as gold.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have a confused patient that needs, that extra dose of medicine, and you have to give them that to help them sort of relax and, rest. And then the next day they've become far more oriented, and, the staff is able to manage everybody a lot better.
Yeah.
The life of your work environment becomes much better.
Yeah, I think you and I both did some de-escalation training to be instructors for a type of program that, it even sometimes like those sorts of things don't feel like they can cover like what's actually needed in those moments, because like maybe they're too broad and you do need to really just like sit down and talk to the patient. I guess I
think a lot of it's just in the fundamental approach. You need to be unbiased.
Yeah.
You need to sort of know your limitations within yourself, and what else do I want to say about it?
Lots. I'm sure you've got lots to say.
So much. But yeah, you need to listen to the people, find out what they want.
But what about like, I make the joke sometimes, like we don't negotiate with terrorists. Like obviously patients aren't terrorists usually, but to some degree, like there's some people you can't please. Like you just will never make them happy.
No, a lot of it is sometimes compromise. It is making a way to get through this moment into the next without any further disruption.
How do you deal with it though? Like, we're both in supervision, so usually we aren't the first line. Usually it's been escalated to us, and say the nurse has, offered all the things and you still can't, like there's still no resolution, and these people are red in the face and cussing at everybody. Like at that point though, how do you de-escalate without, ultimately like almost throwing the nurse who is dealing with the patient under the bus? Like I don't think either of us do that. Hopefully, let us know in the comments if we have. But
throw anybody under the bus.
But yeah, that can be a challenge, because it's like, well, the nurse did everything right here, or even if they didn't necessarily do everything like perfect, we have to.
I can tell you, but to answer your question pretty good is, we have that broad kind of view. We get that global kind of view because we're disconnected from that actual.
We don't have the emotional connection to the stress in the situation, I think.
Yeah, we are reacting now. We're trying to make it better. Hopefully the event has stopped and the de-escalation has already begun at some level. It's not getting worse.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing I think for like staff nurses and, anybody sort of in the fundamentals. What I was trying to think of just a moment ago is just try to slow down the escalation, try to bring it down. And then if we have to come in, we're a new player in the game.
Yeah.
We can actually sort of help.
Fresh pitcher,
and
man.
remove somebody from the system who is maybe antagonizing the event. We can refocus people on what's a priority.
Yeah.
Like, is it a family member that's upset and we still need to take care of the patient? Is it the patient that we actually need to manage?
Yeah.
And what type of goals are we having for this patient? Like, what is the goal of care? To get them out of here? To send them home, discharge them? Do they need to be admitted? What level of care do they need? Is there something special about this patient that makes them more complex than the other patients? And just start looking at the simple things and chipping away to figure out what the problem is, to try to uncover
your H's and T's or whatever. In your ACLS protocol kind of situation.
Yeah, it's not that clear sometimes.
I would say there's probably no great algorithm in the de-escalation world like there is in, something like CPR, like resuscitation. Like, are they doing this? Then do this. If they're doing this, do that. Like,
you just sort of have to understand people in some way to see them. That's why I think dealing with animals and that nonverbal kind of communication and seeing that, like if you have a pet, knowing that they're distressed or that they're happy.
Yeah, it's body language
it's
that
that
you're
kind
reading.
of
I was gonna make a joke about a cow, but you beat me to it by like just easing into it so soft. Like I was like, I'm gonna say like, so this is dealing with cows all the time. That's what tipped you off with these patients. But no, that I think you're 100% right on that, because they don't talk. The cow doesn't tell you like, hey, I got like 27 horseflies on my butt and I'm like kicking because of this. If you don't pay attention to these, externals, then what is the 70%?
Somebody shivering, sitting there while you talk to them, and,
right?
Just going and getting them a blanket without them even asking you.
Yeah, or a couple. My
It
deal.
makes you look like
I always have a bottle of water in my pocket, and half the time I give it to the nurses, but the other half of the time I've got all my alarms set still from last night at work. I'm like, oh, poop. That's what's going on.
You're just sort of reading people. You're trying to figure out what need is unmet.
Yeah.
And coming to some sort of compromise, because we're in this together and we have to make do with what we have.
Yeah.
We have to accept what we don't have. And, we've got to get from this point to the next point, and hopefully we can find something that everybody can live with. It's pretty simple at its base. And you just...
Well, I think you have to have a strong base to get started going into it.
Yeah, you have to be sort of emotionally resilient. You have to...
Or emotionally detached from those situations.
That works too, but you can still be in the moment. You
can have empathy, but you don't need to be like... When the patient is like cussing you out, it's not you necessarily that they're... Like, I've been called all sorts of things. Like, I don't mind that you just said all of those horrible things about me and my ancestors or something. Like, what are we doing here? Like you're saying.
Yeah, you're not going to bruise my ego because I am sort of the master of my own domain in that.
Well, that's what you have to be. Otherwise, you end up having all of the emotional baggage from, this patient and their family said all these things about me, and I questioned. They said, I was a terrible nurse because I didn't do da 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 da. It's like, well, hold on a second. Do you really place that much stock in what? 1 out of 1,000 patients has said to you, or they're like, if you don't have a good control of your own emotions and your ego in all of these situations, and I think control of the ego is probably a big one for all of this. I joke that I've got little man syndrome. I just try to hide it well, but like you have to check that at the door when you walk in, because.
Yeah, I've checked my ego a long time ago. I don't even care.
What are you talking about? Your Gordon Ryan looking self.
Look, I want to be healthy.
You saw that reel. You look like the guy. Yeah, you do.
Look, I look like him who's eating like 10 pounds of Oreos.
Look, this is a radio show. 21. You didn't need to say that.
Yeah, I wish.
Scrubs nice, hide a lot.
Very flattering. Very flattering. Getting in shape for the elk hunt, because it's not easy. Farming's not easy. I got knocked like 3 feet out of the way the other day. I was just opening up a gate, and the cows had sort of crowded right there. And anyway, next thing I know, I was reaching down to open up the gate, and boom, got smacked.
You weren't paying attention,
woke up
man.
On the floor. On the ground, and
wait, you got your cows in your living room?
No, the 2 bulls that got into fighting right there at the gate.
Ooh.
Smacked the gate, and there was enough slack in it to like toss me over. and
Man.
I nearly chipped a tooth, busted a lip.
Ugh.
I got up.
When
and
was
like,
this?
Man, like 3 days ago.
Oh gosh, I mean, them
I
bulls.
didn't even curse them that day. I was just like, wow, I should have seen that.
Sometimes, yeah, you're like, that hurt
know?
like a son of a gun, but like, I can't even be mad. That
Like,
was,
what can I do about it? I can't do anything. I just got to get up and shake it off.
right? Well, there was one time you texted me one afternoon, like, I don't know, it was like 1 or maybe 3 in the afternoon. It was years ago. You texted me like, dude, I just woke up in the field. I was using
I knocked myself out
a
with a
pile
T-post
driver for or a
Yeah.
post hole, not a post hole digger, pile driver for putting in fence posts. And you're like, yeah, I hit it, and I must have been on a rock, and it just bounced straight back, whacked me in the forehead, and I've been out for I don't know how long.
How long I was out. Yeah, I took myself back to the house that day. I was done. That day was done.
Yeah, you're like, I'm. That's good. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't know how long, but I did knock myself out. I had driven the post down too low, and when I raised the post driver up, I caught it right on the top of it.
Oof.
And pulled it down on myself and smacked myself in the head and woke up on the ground. Yeah, I did like a neurostatic evaluation. Like I was left hand functioning, right hand functioning.
So was this while you
operated.
like before you had even like picked yourself up off the
Yeah,
ground?
this was while I was still on the ground. I was starting to like reprocess, reboot.
Reboot like you're some kind of like this futuristic movie where you're the robot.
It took me a second the other day. I was like getting older. It's taking a little longer. I'm not like springing back from.
Dude, I feel that. That's why there's an ice bath behind you. Like, this doesn't have the ice in it at the moment, but like, my body's.
I think hot yoga is going to be my next.
Yeah, somebody told me to ask you about hot yoga, or goat yoga, something like that.
I got goats.
Do you milk your goats?
Yoga with the goats, huh?
You milk your goats?
No.
Are they dairy goats?
They're
or
ornamental.
Ornamental.
That's for SJ. I'm not at cows yet, but my goats are ornamental.
Gotcha. Yeah, my wife was telling me earlier something about like we should get a goat, like a little milking goat.
Oh, yeah, they're fine.
I was like, you gonna milk it? I'm all about getting like a dairy cow, but I haven't set up my fences. I talked to the guy at the extension office a while back, and he's like, well, if you want to do like this, you'd have to do this and that and list yourself as a farm with the government. I'm like, I don't want to talk to the government. So I didn't do that, but there's definitely some value to dealing with livestock and dealing with patients, which sounds bad. Was it? You said it the other day in that class. You just get real used to dealing with heifers.
Oh no, I'm not re-saying that.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't re-say that, but yeah.
You should cut it out. I shouldn't even say that. I said it.
No, it's good. I don't think we're going to get in any
it.
trouble here. No, everybody wants a good show, man. You got to get all the hot takes as possible. Now, yeah, you got any good, story of triumph over a hostile situation?
Well, I've got one about being patient, which is sometimes the best thing you can do is when there's no solution, is just be patient. And this happened the other day when I was working for Megan. And I don't carry my stories home with me very much. So being that it just happened the other day.
That's why it's fresh.
It's fresh in my memory because I couldn't tell you what happened many years ago. I have a lot of stories for you. But yeah, the gentleman was going through alcohol withdrawal. And he was very sort of agitated and confused.
Mm-hmm.
And he needed a lot of management because he was sort of a physically healthy kind of guy.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Sometimes that's troublesome because he did not know where he was and was sort of trying to leave, and he was going through withdrawals, and it was problematic. He came from the ER to the ICU right at the beginning of the shift, and, I was able to work with him with his staff nurse, and we were able to try to reorient him and get him from the bed into the ICU bed. And that worked. And We were able to get his vital signs, get him on the
so this was
monitor.
immediately as he was transitioning to the flow, man.
Yeah. So this is how my
Those
shift
poor
began.
ICU nurses, man.
Yeah, I got a report. I was in the office at like 7:20. I was in the ICU for whatever reason. I was looking at the clock, but I was out of the office pretty fast.
I know why you were looking at the clock.
Because I was out of the office.
Exactly.
Really fast.
I'm the same way. If it's early in my shift, I'm like, what? I haven't even started my shift report.
Well, yeah, this was a 4-hour shift for Megan, and it started right away, and I knew it was going to be good.
Sometimes them princess shifts are the worst.
Yeah, let him talk to his wife. He made a good conversation with his wife, and then I stepped out of the room, and the other new staff nurse from the ICU took over, pushed his little bedside table up, and this is sort of hilarious. I think this is funny. So he was becoming more confused, like he was starting to become really confused again, and I know this for a fact because he was imagining a sandwich in front of him. There was nothing in front of him, and the sandwich he picked up, he ripped it in half. He set it back down. He took the top piece of bread off the right side and picked something up off the sandwich and just chucked it into the floor or off the sandwich and put the top back down. He picked that half of the sandwich up and started eating it. Full on delusion. And then it was going on. And then
you gotta stay close to this mic, man.
My staff nurse decided to give him some peanut butter crackers. I thought that was a terrible idea.
Yes, like he's already got food.
Yeah, he's gonna fill up on that sandwich. Which I've got to jump to this. Thinking, I got back home and started talking to my daughter about it a little bit because it was sort of interesting.
Yeah.
But he has made up this sandwich, and in his own delusion, it has something messed up on it. Like he has picked off something from his delusional sandwich, which everybody I've told the story to said it was a tomato. But anyway, he messed up his own sandwich. Like
he didn't want the tomato. Did you? You didn't
or it
ask
must have
him?
been a hospital sandwich or something. I just don't know. But anyway, yeah. So I got to step away from the unit for a few minutes, and then I got called right back. They called a code atlas on him, and he was a hot mess. He was in the bed, but his mind was 1,000 miles from that. He was a truck driver, and he was driving that big rig of a bed. I mean, he was shifting gears. He had slid down to the footboard and mashing on that thing like he was going down a steep incline, changing gears, man. He was burning them up, breaking. It was terrible. And this went on.
You just shout like, breaker, breaker, like try to get
We
something.
asked him what his little handle was.
Yeah.
I do not remember.
Dang it.
But
And that probably would violate HIPAA, so thank goodness you don't remember it.
yeah, I don't remember anybody's name or birthday or anything. But yeah, this guy, he was in full-on delusion. And
That is
it was a change of shift for the physicians. So that was a problematic issue.
Yeah. Always.
So that was one of the compromising kind of things. And that's just what happens,
Yeah.
Physicians get to change shifts. It's part of the problem. Not everybody has to be that responsive. Even though we were up there and it was like 4 people managing this guy.
Yeah.
We actually had the extra resources and we were managing this guy. But, he needed some medicine.
Yeah.
He was going through alcohol withdrawal. We're on an Ativan shortage. Yeah. And what they had ordered him was not helping. So the physicians let it go. It went through shift change. We had problems keeping him sort of in the bed. But we got to enjoy this guy's delusions for like 3 hours.
That's a good way to put it. Got your workout in.
I tried to put an empty urinal, I'll have you know, over on his right hand on the side rail to try to have him shifting gears with the urinal. That didn't work. I think he pretty much chucked that back at him.
Yeah, that seems right.
But, he said he played guitar.
Yeah.
He said that his daughter was an artist. These were some things I think were coherent, but
yeah.
I told him I bet he played the guitar like Chuck Berry with his shaking and rattling. That entertain myself.
No, that's a pretty
But
good
yeah,
one.
I mean, we just had fun. We enjoyed it. It took like 3 hours to get him to calm down to where he could be managed and
How do you
become a safe situation for everybody.
how do
And
you
there was
feel
really nothing else to do about it. I mean, that was just
how do you feel about like almost, I don't want to say encouraging somebody in their delusions, but like in this situation, like hey man, how's the sandwich you got there? What are you eating? Like I don't know if this is right, but very often I will just like talk to people because they think it's real. And I don't think it's necessarily, I think sometimes it's problematic to reorient people when they're not in the state of mind to be reoriented. Like it can cause more escalation to tell Papaw, you're not in your own home right now. Like that'll freak this old dude out. He thinks he's in his home watching the wheel, man. Like let him enjoy that and like buzz off. We don't need to like reorient 87-year-old Papaw with Alzheimer's and, some degree of dementia and all this mess. Like, no, just, yeah. Can we talk about this? Like you like you were talking about earlier, approaching each situation like with fresh eyes, maybe. Like, well, he needs to get medications. How can we be creative in this? And I think we have to get more creative because, like, if you can't prevent the escalation from starting, because honestly, some people might not appreciate this take, but I think nursing staff often like is part of the problem with escalation. So not because we're trying to make people angry, but we have a job to do. We have a lot of patients. We have a lot of things that we need to get done in a very short amount of time so that we can get to the next patient who's out there who might be having a STEMI. So Papaw, who's in here in his own delusions, making himself a fake sandwich and eating it and throwing off a tomato, maybe don't bring him the peanut butter sandwich or the peanut butter packet to introduce some new stimulus. Like it's as silly as that sounds, like offering somebody actual food when they think they're being satiated with the crappy sandwich they just made, that actually might be the stimulus that kicks them over the edge. Now, I'm not saying in this situation that would necessarily be it, but I mean, sometimes you let the sleeping dog lie.
Well, I think that there's a line in any of those kinds of situations you can cross and be wrong. I think,
you don't find out until then too.
You know what's right and wrong in most of these situations.
But you don't know that how the patient's going to respond is what I mean. Like,
well,
you might find out, I shouldn't have offered them food. You as a staff nurse
get to control your actions and sort of, you have to enjoy what you do. And sometimes that can be sort of the highlight of your night. If somebody's pleasantly confused and
some of those pleasantly confused
you get
people
to sort of be a movie star in their delusion or something.
Is that what you do?
No. I'll give you a personal story. Is they were getting ready to call a code atlas on my granddaddy a long time ago. They had given him some morphine after surgery, and he had been on a PCA pump. Well, he was having a reaction and hallucinations and all sorts of old person stuff with the morphine and
old person stuff.
Yeah, he was trying to farm from the nurse and from the bed on like
he was on his old John Deere and they weren't having it.
No, he was on the horse and buggy. So yeah, he used to have some horses and he liked to work with the Amish.
Oh wait, you still got that buggy in the barn, don't you?
No, we have sold it, but.
Last time I was over there, you still had it.
Yeah. We had it for a long, long time. But yeah, he liked to work with the big like Belgium horses.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so I was finishing up a shift and I got to go up there and I did not have the responsibility of like taking care of other patients, but I could clearly see that he was hallucinating. I sort of understood his hallucination. The other option at this point,
carrots to feed his big old draft horses.
Well, I told him to just slide over. I would drive the horse and carriage around the farm, and I pulled my chair up next to him and sat side by side with him, and I was able to go through the farm with him in my head, in his head.
Yeah.
And we could go around just talking about things because I had that familiarity. You know, you can't be that specific with everybody or have that kind of insight. But, you know, the next option was to restrain him. What was that going to hurt? You know, it was worth a shot. In some situations as a nurse, you know, just sort of working with it instead of working against it.
Yeah, that's what I mean by, like, if we can, you know, I've done similar stuff.
Don't be crude or rude, but you can.
I mean, unless the patient's crude and rude, sometimes that actually jives really well.
Try to make it enjoyable. I mean, you've got to be there. They've got to be there.
Yeah.
Make it the best you can.
Yeah. I have something for you under that. That's my wrapping paper. You can get it.
You want me to get? Do you want me to?
Yeah. You can open it up, man.
But yeah, there's so much to discuss about it.
You're not talking to the mic, man. Now I just sound like I'm talking to myself. I just push all the Catholic propaganda on this day after we get a new pope. Yeah. What's his name? Leo the 14th, man. You're the first person who hasn't, like, I think you muted yourself. There you go. You're back in action. Pope Leo the 14th. Pretty excited.
I thought it was gonna be like Ralph Fiennes or something.
Ralph what?
Maybe Donald Trump. I didn't know.
Oh my gosh. Man, there were some people that were pretty angry about that. So many people that were angry about that. But yeah, you got yourself a Vitals&Virtues sticker.
Thank you.
I gotta get some more of those.
This will go on my suitcase.
On your suitcase?
It'll travel around the world with me.
Perfect. Most people just put them on their coffee cups. I'm excited that one's gonna get some world. You know, it'll at least get to see some airport in Colorado.
No.
You don't take your. Oh yeah, well you don't fly
drive
out there. Yeah, that's right. You guys, that's a long. You flew me out. You spent your hard-earned frequent flyer miles or something on getting me out to Colorado. I was telling somebody, I was like, man, Robby's got to be like the kindest person you're ever gonna meet. And I had to tell him that story. That Robby, he flew me out to Colorado so that I could take pictures of elks.
Yeah,
I did that. I had that was that morning. The first morning, I think, we went out. You know, we had all walked down the Man Killer, and I think we had I was using my phone, like, I would, like, take a picture of, like, a topographical map, and I was
it's so easy to get lost out there.
Dude,
I've been lost twice.
I did get lost that morning. I managed to get my way back onto the trail, one of the roads. And by the end of the day, my phone said that I had hiked 10 miles in the mountain. And I had a backpack with, I don't know, 20 pounds of stuff, my bow, and, like, my 40, because we're out in the friggin', like, I wasn't hoping to get eaten by a mountain lion, you know? So this was actually the funniest story that I don't know. One of my favorite memories of this trip was, so that morning I went out, we kind of all dispersed once we got to the bottom of the Man Killer, and I went out, and I remember you saying, like, in the mornings the elk, or at night the elk come up out of the canyon, and they bed down, and then in the mornings they go back down into the bottom of the canyon. And I was like, all right, well, if the elk are at the bottom of the canyon, I best make my way down there. And so I'm like going. I don't know. I know it's a couple miles, but I did not realize getting to the bottom of that canyon was like 5 miles as the crow flies. Very difficult going almost straight down. I don't know. It's probably like at a 45-degree angle for a lot of these places, and then some it's like a sheer cliff. Well, I'm going and I'm hopping on these little trails that are like, I'm like, this seems like it's got to be some kind of game trail. And I go and I get to this kind of precipice. I'm like, oh, that's pretty steep, but I think I can make it. I've got my backpack, my bow, some spare arrows in the quiver, and 4 gallons of water and some like overnight supplies on the off chance I get like stranded or something.
Yeah,
and like a first aid kit. I'm looking down.
You shoot an elk out there. It's like, oh my God.
I wasn't thinking about bringing it back up. I was just thinking Robbie's been coming out here for years. I got to come out here and smoke one my first day. Like my stupid arrogance. So I'm standing on not quite a precipice. It wasn't like a straight drop, but like if a 90-degree angle, if like straight up and down is what it is, it's probably like a 70. So like it's still pretty freaking steep. Like I'm having to scale it.
And the only path to get back out is usually by like a mountain lion hole.
Well, this is the funny thing. So I go. You've seen Black Sheep with Chris Farley and David Spade. Okay, so I'm going down this mountainside. I eat it. Like I go big time, just fall down, and I roll slide. Just imagine Tommy Boy going down the side of that mountain, and he grabs the little like.
Murat Gadzin did that.
Yeah, he broke his ankle. Yeah, so I'm going down, and I'm holding on to the thing, and I finally get to like the bottom. It's probably like, I don't know, 50 yards from where I started to where I stopped. And I'm like, holy crap, that was exhausting. So I get up and I walk, and I'm like, man, it's like, I looked at the time, it's like noon. And I'm still like, I had worked nights, a couple nights before we even left, and it was super exhausting, like getting out to Colorado. Like it was just busy and everything.
Oh yeah, it's work. It's nothing.
Yeah, like so.
Fun about
Steinweg and I were packing up stuff and getting flown out in the morning, and there was delays. And for whatever reason, flying makes you tired, just like driving. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna take a nap. And I look, and there's like this nice spot. It's like under this pine tree, and it's like this looks cozy. So I just like curl up in a ball, and I fall asleep, and I wake up like I don't know, an hour later. And I stand up and I'm looking around, and I did, mind you, I was super careful. I slept with my pistol on my chest, or on my lap or something. Like I'm not, I don't want a mountain lion or a bear to show up.
I would do that, but I would probably have like a honey bun or something. I've had bears come up next to me.
Have you really?
Twice.
Oh, no honey bun. I was not about that life.
I had
Doritos. You got food in the backpack. So I'm going like I look around when I wake up, and I'm like, I wonder if I hit my head. Like this was not a wise decision. I look at the pine tree that was next to me, and I still have these pictures. There's scrapes like up and down them where either a bear or a mountain lion has like sharpened its nails or whatever on it. Like on like all of the trees around me. And then I look at where I was sleeping, and it was covered in some kind of like blondish colored hair. There was hair all over the trees, and like some kind of animal poop that I was like, I don't recognize what that looks like. So it's nothing that we got in Virginia.
You didn't need to worry about it. It was a perfect spot to take a nap.
Right. And then I look down, and there are paw prints. Then I'm like, oh, that looks like there's no claws on this. These are mountain lion tracks. So I'm like, I just like took a nap in a cat's like napping spot.
Yeah, I've done that. And the most disappointing thing is if you walk all that distance, and then there's like an access trail like a quarter of a mile from you that you never knew about. You've walked from one access point to another. Right. That is super disappointing.
Oh yeah,
you should know better.
I should. Well, I got back at lunch, or I don't remember. It wasn't lunchtime, but then so later this day, we go and I think we had kind of met up at midday and went back out in the afternoon.
We met up and heard some bulls bugling.
Yeah. Well, I went back.
We had a pretty good day.
I went back down with Steinweg, and he was on one end of this big opening, and I was out in the center of it. And I'm no joke. Like my wife had flown out to Scotland a couple days before I had gone to Colorado with you. So I like pull out my phone. I'm checking to see if she had like sent me any messages or anything, but there's no service. So then I like go scroll through some pictures of my wife, like a sad little child of a man. And then I'm like, all right, well, let me look up. And I'd gotten in this spot. I was like, I'll get on my knees so that if an elk comes up, I can just like spring up on my knees and like take a shot like I'm some kind of like
John Rambo.
I don't know, something like that. Well, I'm like, my knees hurt. And of course, after the fact, I realized I'd walked 10 miles in the mountains that day and fallen down a mountain. And then, so I like, man, my knees hurt so bad. I just gotta lay down. So I lay down, and
I remember this. And
then I'm laying there for a little bit, and then I'm like,
that's when
I look up, and there's an elk not 10 yards, like
cow
elk, probably 30 feet or less from me.
Got a good picture though, didn't you?
I did get a great picture.
Hey, you know what?
It was a good story, I guess.
That'll last longer than the beef.
That's right.
I mean, than the elk.
Yeah, that's right. But man, my knees like are remembering that feeling at this moment. Like, it was exhausting.
Yeah, I've had a moment where I've been anesthetized myself for sitting in some awkward position.
Yeah.
And then like the elk come by and I can't do anything because I've got a dead leg. It's
yeah.
just like, I can't do it.
Yep. That was me.
You sort of laid down on your arm and your elbow because you weren't really prepared, and they
because you haven't seen anything all day. Yeah. It was
2 weeks cross country for 15 seconds of maybe seeing them.
Mm-hmm. Well, so that trip actually, I did get to take a shot at one later on.
A few yards.
Yeah. Well, was it Josh or the other fellow that was out with us?
That was when Josh got his elk.
Yeah, so he had shot one, and then it was like, hey, we've got an elk shot, and we had a blood trail. So we went out, and we're like, you and the other guys went out to where he had shot it, and we're like, we might push it. So you staged me along the path where it might come. And sure enough, I don't know if you had radioed me or something or what, but I heard it coming. And I'm like, I got an arrow knocked. I'm ready. And I like trot down the path, and I see it like it comes right in front of me, and I let go of the release, and the arrow like zips out there, and I'm like, it's got to be right on the money. And I heard something like a weird twang after I shot. It had hit a stick or a tree branch, and it ended up deflecting it down. And when I retrieved my arrow, there was like hoof prints like right next to where the shot was. Like,
that's a sad story.
But it was super exciting. Like, that was the most excitement that I'd had, and who knows how long. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah, man, that's living, isn't it?
Yeah. Then we track it for forever, and Philip's like, we're having Philip. He was our main bloodhound, and for whatever reason, he seems to be good at it. But isn't he colorblind?
He's sort of colorblind.
Yeah, so afterwards I'm like, wait, was this blood that he's seeing, or are we just running back and forth across the mountain for no reason?
That is a concern sometimes with Philip. It's like, is he seeing what he thinks he's seeing?
Right.
Like, he's a good old boy, but sometimes he'll lead you astray. Sometimes he's good as gold.
It was a good
You
was
never
such
know.
a good time.
He'll make a trip out of it regardless.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I got a couple questions for you. Let me make sure we answered those.
Yeah, man. I got nowhere to be.
No, I don't. I told Lexi I'll be done by I think 11:30 or so. I was like, I'll be in bed by 11:30.
Yeah, my kids, my daughter and my mom and my brother's fiance, they got market tomorrow. But
and where are they going for market? Not that
Bedford.
Bedford. I saw on the Facebook page they go out there a good bit.
Yeah, we go out there every weekend for the most part.
Yeah. All right, we've answered a couple of these, but we'll go a little quick on these. Why did you decide to become a nurse?
I just felt like I was doing a lot of the nurse work as a paramedic, and the schooling didn't seem to be that difficult. And
not everybody's as smart as you, Robby.
Progress from one thing to the next.
Yeah. So the natural progression of
education. Yeah.
Yeah. What clinical experiences have impacted you most?
My son's St. Jude journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's impacted me the most because that's where people really care.
Mm-hmm.
Money's not an option, not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got like one mission,
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like the utopia of healthcare.
Yeah.
And what you would want to aspire to do if you had the resources, the staff.
Yeah.
And seeing how people act in that kind of environment is refreshing. It's sort of what I try to base my practice off of.
Because didn't you basically, you and your son was the one that like helped cure brain cancer or like come up with a cure for it?
Well,
maybe that's a bit bold, but
we did not do that. The doctors and the people there did that.
Well, it wasn't like your son
got like the gold standard of care, which was pretty much brand new at that time for his craniopharyngioma.
Ah. Yeah. So that...
We were like patient number 6 or 7.
Oh, man.
To have it done in the way that we did it. But the 2 physicians that were our treatment were doing things in a much different way. We were able to bring them together.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the neurosurgeon from UVA and the radiation oncologist at St. Jude, we were able to get them together.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah, because my son's rather unique. He doesn't have any like open... They didn't do like any open surgeries. They went through his nose.
Oh, whoa.
And then we got the proton radiation afterwards, so that's pretty new.
That's really cool.
And yeah, that was
quite
the journey. We still go back like once a year.
Yeah, for just follow-ups.
Yeah.
Catch up with all of the... what was like... Because at some point, I guess you were going out there pretty regularly.
Yeah, in the beginning, we went out for a couple weeks. Then I went down to Jacksonville, Florida for like 8 weeks, and that's where he had his treatment at back then. And then we would go out to Memphis pretty much every 3 months for say like a year and a half, 2 years, and then we went out like every 6 months, and now we're going like every year.
Yeah.
And he's an adult. We've been doing this for like 14 years now.
Dang.
Yeah.
How did you like find out that he had what was going on?
The pediatric growth curve.
Ah.
It's very important. Yeah, he had fallen off. He was... the biggest red flag was that he didn't need new clothes from like the previous year, whereas like you'll see it at some point. Every school year you've got to have like new clothes because your kids are pretty much grown out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And he was a well-dressed kid who didn't need a lot of new clothes. We actually had too many.
Yeah.
Because people gave it to him. And
I mean, you'd also had another son that's older than him.
Yeah,
right?
and everybody sort of needed to go to the doctor for different things, and we got referrals. And anyway, the eye doctor is the one who actually said something's wrong. We need to get an MRI. And... you know, one thing led to another, and that's...
I'm just over here taking my socks off.
It was a roller coaster of a ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just finished his sophomore year at Liberty.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, his first year at Liberty, he did some at CVCC.
Well, that's good.
So this was his sophomore year, but yeah, he just got back home.
Nice.
So he's doing pretty good.
Was he like... was he on campus?
Yeah, he stayed on campus this year.
Oh, he doesn't drive. That's right.
No, he doesn't drive.
Gotcha. So
he's got limitations. He could drive to like from my house to the dump, or maybe to get to the gas station.
Yeah.
He's challenged the driver's license thing and won, but he just doesn't drive. He's not.
So he's like, when you need more cigarettes, you send him to the gas station.
No, that's not the case. No. Milk would be the thing that we would have to have in the household.
I know. Man,
I
want to get a dairy cow. Maybe we'll get a dairy goat. All right. I feel that's a pretty impressive.
I do enjoy working with pediatric patients.
I know. You were the peds
OB
king.
is actually a special population. I enjoy sort of being up there and being around. I think they're just unique. It's a service that I've not been afforded much experience with.
Yeah. And
as a supervisor, I can now sort of see what's going on up there.
Yeah. Well, as an ER nurse, like, I joked around with Jade, but it's like, you're like, oh, a pregnant patient that says that something's coming out of her vagina. I hope it's not a baby. Like, it's not something that you want to take care of as an ER nurse. You're like, no, I don't do with that. That's not, please no. Versus when you go up and it's not going to be your patient as a supervisor. It's like, oh yeah, I'll come in here. I mean, I've gone in rooms and like, they've been single mothers and it's like, oh, well, I'll come in there. I'm like holding these ladies' hands and like, you got this. Come on. Telling these ladies to breathe. And one of the midwives was like, man, you're pretty good at this. So I was like, well, thank you. But it's like,
easy.
It's so easy to do that part. Like,
what is this about?
Yeah. It's like, just hold a leg. I mean, honestly, I'm not a big fan of that part. It's just,
you do way more than I do.
I'm not saying I've done this a lot. I've done this a few times. Most of the time, I'm doing like the statin urgent C-sections where we're just like rolling on. Like that's a different deal. But
yeah, I just find it challenging. I find it interesting. I don't know enough about it, so everything's still sort of.
You clown. The funny part, the irony here, is when I oriented with you as a supervisor. You were like, you really should spend a lot of time up in OB because it's such a foreign land for us ER nurses. So just like hang out here, learn as much as you can. Now, so I took that to heart and like I hung out up there like a lot.
And how many children later?
Like for me?
Yeah, for you.
I mean, I've got 3,
yeah.
But 3 that are 3 and under.
I figured it out after 3, where they come from and all that. So now that they've all grown, I stopped having them. I can actually take myself out to eat.
Oh my goodness!
And not have to worry about it.
Yeah, you're not like, all right, who's wearing the food home? I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's even nice though? When they get old, you can't send them to the store for milk. You can make them take the trash off if you got to take it to the dump.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me. I'm going to be putting my kids to work. They're going to be working.
Good luck with that. I've struggled with that. I can't get mine to do much.
The beatings will continue until morale improves. If the Marine Corps taught me anything, it's that. Just kidding.
Everybody's sensitive now.
Full disclosure, that's not true.
Gentle parent.
That's that's a good one. If you could say anything to your new grad self, what would it be?
Oh, I'll tell you what. Write this down because
I don't need to write it. It's recording.
I should have written down. I should have diaried some.
You should have diarrheaed what?
Diaried. Should have written down some of my experiences in some sort of way.
some like journaling for your.
I should have journaled. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Man, the stories and the encounters and just the odd situations that I would be able to recall
but you can't because you didn't write them down.
I can't. I just know that I've enjoyed every moment of it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think the secret's got to be working 2 days a week. Like, not to diminish.
Like, I can tell you, like one time I oriented a guy for 4 hours and I told him exactly how the 4 hours were going to go in the first 5 minutes of meeting him. And I was like, we're going to
talking to the mic, Robbie.
We're going to do this and this. And
yeah.
We're going to have a break here and break
pull the
there.
mic closer to you.
Like, we're not going to do anything in 4 hours. I'm going to show you how we're going to masterfully do nothing for 4 hours. Ben Bond is his name. He's one of the flight medics.
Oh,
flight
yeah,
nurses. Yeah. I gave him like one of the best 4 hours of orientation in his life, I'm sure of. But yeah, I called it. I was like, we're going to get a snack here. We're going to go there. We'll do like one IV.
You know what's funny is when the couple shifts that I did preceptorship with you, because as a supervisor, they want you to, basically, it's not like when you're a new nurse or new to a unit, like you precept with everybody so you can get a good kind of well-rounded view of everything. You basically try to do the same thing with me, like, so this is how it's going to go tonight. We did this and that, and then at some point, I start here. Yeah, you're good at planning. I think Sun Tzu would probably be proud of you.
Yeah, but there's absolutely, just guessed it.
Well, that's it. You make a plan as best you can, but then, like you said, we both kind of agreed. Like when you're out of the office at 7:20, you're like, "What the heck? I'm supposed to be doing like my office chores before I step out."
Yeah, making sure there's no new policies or
Right.
something
I didn't screw something up
dramatic
and
has changed.
have an email that I need to, respond to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those kinds of things.
Goodness. So journaling is your advice for new grads.
Journaling, yes. Yeah.
Write down.
Because there's so many things that would just make you laugh.
Yeah.
Might be really emotional. You might figure out something about yourself.
Yeah.
It could work in so many different ways.
Yeah, 100%. I did. I was one of my instructors had told me to keep patient compliments. Like if you get like a written compliment from a patient, or save it. And I've done that. Like that actually was on 2 occasions when I worked at LGH. I'd gotten them. I've only got the one still, but I don't know. It's just kind of nice to be able to look back on those things and say like, yeah, this still holds true, or like I'm still there, or maybe you can say, because like burnout's such a huge thing now where everybody's like checking out.
Burnout is a big issue,
dude. I did some brief review last night of some statistics. It is disturbing. We can get into it after we get these questions in, and I actually want to know what you think, like deep de-escalation, like how this is gonna play in. But anyways, let's get a couple more questions in before we dive into our next topic. What's the funniest, most challenging part of working in leadership?
Well, the funniest, the most challenging, I guess it's one, I do want to help. I want to be a good person. I want to help staff, nurses, when they need me. But like when there's a patient you can smell them from around the corner, it's a code brown or something, like walking in the other direction. Like,
we need to put a disclaimer.
I want to help, but I'm good.
I'll help with so many other things.
Yeah,
Please send me to do an IV somewhere else.
Yeah, is there something else I can offer to help you with?
Dude, I'm the same. Megan will tell you.
Yeah, sometimes I tell myself I need to go do this, and I grab some gloves and we just go at it with the nurses. But
I will tell you, most of the nurses are so good to us, though, to where if you offer to help, they are gonna turn the patient to you so that they can take care of all of the mess. But I'm the same. I don't know what it is, but
the people are good to me.
I'm not about the code brown life anymore, man. I'll do code blues and strokes all day long, but please, that's
you want me to go talk to your patient who's upset? Don't you have a patient who's upset? I'll go talk to them.
Don't you have a code atlas that's about to happen that I can go diffuse first?
Yeah. There's somebody that you need the sitter. The sitter needs a break.
Yeah, right. You're over there like, I'm sorry, but I gotta go take the sitter needs a break. I gotta go sit.
No.
Oh goodness, that's funny.
Yeah, it's not funny, but it's a guilty pleasure, I guess.
It's just turned.
Yeah, I will say poop makes up a lot of my lifestyle, from cow poop.
Well, that was why you couldn't bring your dog today.
Yeah, she jumped into a big old pile of poop right before I was getting ready to come over here. Had to have that emergency bath.
Yeah. Oh, gracious.
Yes.
So what are your long-term / future goals in nursing in general?
I have no clue. I want to do it till it's not fun anymore. Till I have to change.
Till you have to change?
I wanted to retire from this and be in the beef full-time, pretty much around now. It hasn't worked out quite like that. I still have quite a few goals I have to hit.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really have any goals. Just going to see where it takes me, what happens, what I need to do for myself to keep my sanity.
Yeah.
I sort of like the role that I'm in because there's really nothing consistent about it. It's rather unique because we don't get just everyday problems because that's handled at the bedside or handled by, senior nurses who've addressed these kinds of problems before, or your charge nurse who's had
Dude,
these
shout
types
out
of
to all the charge nurses and the nurses that deal with the problems before we get there. Because I will say, at least our group,
absolutely, yeah,
they do such a good job. Like, especially, I got to do
the night shift people are amazing.
Yeah, nights is where it's at. Like, there's a reason. I've been doing so. This is. I don't know if this will make you feel older. It might, but you still look like Gordon Ryan. So whatever. I've been doing this for 10 years now. So I met you 10 years ago at LGH. In 2 months.
Are we having an anniversary?
Yeah, we're about to have an anniversary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where are you taking me?
Well, it's 10 years.
Yeah, what's the?
We should go to Universal.
Yeah, it's been a while, man.
Yeah,
good time.
Or we could go to a concert. We went to a concert. Eric Church concert.
Yeah, Eric Church concert. That was
a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that was fun. We've done a couple things. We did that.
You come to a Sturgill Simpson concert. That's where it's at.
Is it?
Yeah,
We're gonna go to Floyd Fest.
I would love to go.
Have you been?
Well,
I don't even know what it is. It just seems like it'd probably be up your alley.
Oh, definitely.
Isn't there one that's in Nelson, or is that the one?
Used to be Interlochen in Nelson. I don't know if that's still going on. I tell you who I'd really like to see. I would really like to just see Emily Wheeler's husband, Noah, in Bigfoot Country. I'd like to see them.
What?
He's a drummer, and
she didn't tell me he played. She was. She sat in your chair.
Yeah, he does other things, but he plays in the band. Yeah.
Do you know?
Went to school with him. He's a couple years younger than me.
Gotcha. You know, this is funny. A couple years ago, when I was living in Appomattox, I would go running at there's a ball field over in Appo. I think your name is on some kind of commemorative plaque thing.
Nowhere near a baseball field would my name would be.
Are you sure?
On a commemorative plaque, no.
And you weren't the one that ran the one state or something, or you weren't on a team that won something. It might have been my neighbor. You know my neighbor, John Martin. I think his name is on there too. I'm pretty sure your name's on there.
Maybe that far back, like the midgets or something. Or like
minor leagues is what you're referring to.
Is it Pee-wee football or
baseball?
No, would not have been.
Not have been you. All right, my memory must be going too.
But if it is, I'd like to know because I think I hit one baseball in like 3 years of playing.
Well, it was you were on a team that won a title.
I couldn't do it. Would have been Pee-wee baseball. That's like my Al Bundy.
Oh my goodness.
Back then, I was amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah, man. What? I don't know. I wonder about so we're talking about de-escalation, and basically if you could give one rule for somebody in dealing with a crisis situation or a tense situation, de-escalate, what would that one rule be?
Well,
don't worry, I'll give you multiple swings at this.
One rule is hard because there are several things that you need to do to be successful.
Give me 3 keys to success.
1, you need to be the calmest person in the room, or pretend like it.
Right.
2, you need to not let any of it get to you, and not take it personally. You're there to help fix it.
Okay.
You don't need to take it personally. And then 3, you just listen. Just be there, be in the moment. Figure out what everybody needs. It will come to you. You don't really have to think too much about it. Don't overthink it.
Well, so I might give you some pushback on that, because I think for you who's been doing this for 20 plus years, for you it might just come to you, and for me, been doing this for 10 years. It might just come to me. But like, say for that new nurse who hasn't been doing this that long and doesn't, can't, because you know how early on in nursing you're very task oriented, and when something like you're already in a constant state of stress as a new nurse, probably, and I don't think that goes away until you're probably. I don't mean like you're constantly amped up and like stressed out to a point where you can't function or something.
Well, sometimes you just don't spend the time to listen
exactly because you're focused on all of the tasks you have to do.
Yes.
So I think whereas it might come to you and me also because we have that like more 1,000-foot view where we can like swoop in and like slowly address it.
It's getting old. Yeah.
We can address it that way, but from that person who doesn't have the experience that you or I or somebody else might have, it might not come to you.
Well, then, so my step back, you got to fake it. You got to be calm.
Have to fake
you got to be calm.
Calm and fake it. And I know your resources. This is probably number 4 for me. Is like I agree with your other 2 or 3, but don't go in there by yourself. Go in there with somebody to. I don't want to say play good cop, bad cop, but to some degree, just have somebody to like back you up, and not that you need like you got to throw hands with somebody, but just having that third person, that additional presence, who's literally just the calm person in the room, can make like a world of difference.
Well, that is true. Some people, it would be really appropriate to have like a second nurse to come in and sort of be there with a difficult patient. One, for documentation and accountability purposes. You can
CYA purposes.
You can recruit some extra help, maybe for like moral support. If you're a young nurse and you feel like you're confident and can handle the situation, having that more seasoned nurse who can quietly be there with you and maybe guide you in some way that's constructive and not overstepping their boundaries within the room, so that the person can learn how to handle that escalation and that event and get through it, and then have that in their toolbox for the next encounter. Because in this kind of field, it's not if, it's just when. You're going to have it in many different ways and many different forms. There's going to be some event that's escalated. If something, medical goes wrong with your patient, it's going to be an escalated event where it's a lot going on really fast. It doesn't just have to be some sort of crisis where somebody's mad or angry or combative. If you have a patient that turns bad and then you're the primary nurse and you have 15 people walk into your room, what are you going to do? You just sort of need to calm down, relax, and you need to take a broad view of what the situation is. And that is a learned skill that comes with time and sort of seeing these things on a regular basis.
There's no shame, and honestly, this probably helps a lot of situations. If things are getting tense, you can ask the patient or whoever, like, hey, I understand we're kind of getting a little on edge or however you need to word this. Like, there's better ways to word this than, hey, you're stressing the F out. Like, let's take a minute. But essentially say, hey, I know our emotions are getting high. Can we pause for a minute? Let me go. Let me step out for a minute. And we can kind of gather our thoughts and come back and try to sort this out. I don't think that happens often enough, because like we want to have a solution, but sometimes like just taking a 3 minutes of
slowing it down,
it changes the pace.
Out of it, changing the pace. Getting some resources. That's one of the big things, is knowing yourself. Like, if you know that you're in over your head, step back, get some resources. If it's something you feel comfortable with, you can step on in the room a little bit further and see what you can do and see how far you can get and handle it on your own. But you should know yourself well enough to know, if I'm a new nurse and this is overwhelming, you should back out. You should get some resources.
In any
get a plan.
stage in your career, like take know yourself, be able to step back, and don't let the crisis or that emotional, like, essentially don't let your opponent set the tempo. So like,
don't let your emotions run your logic.
Yeah, so there's those two principles. So because your emotions can be your opponents in this situation. I took some boxing lessons way back, and that was one of the things that my coach had said. Do not let your opponent set the tempo. So when things are escalating and that patient's screaming and cussing at you, don't let that be the influencer towards your emotional state. It's really hard to kind of master that, but like...
Yeah, that takes a lot of practice.
It does. It sounds so cliche and cheesy and ridiculous, but like deep breaths. And my big one is I always I say prayers before I go in the room. My favorite, and I said it on the last episode, but the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi is like, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there's despair, hope. Where there's doubt, faith. Where there's sadness, joy. And where there's darkness, light. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, and to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, pardoning that we are pardoned, and in dying that we are born again into our eternal life. Like, that's the prayer. I don't always get this out.
Really good.
Yeah,
I couldn't even remember that.
Don't worry, it's now recorded, so you can just come back to a minute and 25 or an hour and 25 minutes and just...
I just usually say, all right, here we go.
Right. I mean, and I'm not great at it, but there's certain things, like, we're very ritualistic people, and sometimes when we can embrace those things that we know kind of reset us, like you mentioned earlier, and this is like one of my favorite jams when I'm coaching people, is if you want to be the hero in your own story. What do like all superheroes have? They got their gadgets. Like, they've got, Batman has his tool belt. Actually, not a lot of superheroes do. It's basically just Batman. So hopefully, if we work together, you're a big fan of Batman, but you've got a tool belt. You know, carpenters have a tool belt. You have to have equipment to kind of navigate and deal with the tasks that come up. So take a breath, do your mental prep before you go into that room. I don't know, that all of this has come off that question, like, what are 3 things you'd do if or tell people to deal with de-escalation? But you got some other stuff cooking. I don't know how much you want to talk about that today, or at least here, but
not here.
But we do have some stuff cooking, so hopefully that
I do. Well, you and I came together to try to do this educational thing, and
why is it? Because we're probably gonna have to roll here shortly. It's 11 o'clock, man. It's getting late.
I was late to get here.
No, it is what it is. We've been on here for a good bit. It's been a good time. But what else do you have?
I don't know. I never really think about anything.
It's just like it'll come to you when the time comes, right? It'll hit you.
For most people, it's hard to imagine. I sort of work in like this ignorant kind of bliss. I don't know what to tell people, but life is like a river, and you just don't need to fight it. Just flow with it, and the answers become so easy. It doesn't take a lot when you get to the de-escalation and you get to dealing with different types of crises and problems in your life. I sort of believe that you were put there to be in that space, and
That's
these
divine
things
providence
happen.
right there, man.
I
think you might call it something different.
I just call it the way that the universe works. We're just in that moment.
Universe, God,
Yeah, you just... You
We'll
got to pay attention to that kind of stuff. And if you see sort of, the way that things are going, you can pick up on it. It's not that hard if you just let go and start paying attention to the way things are flowing and the way that life is coming in around you, decisions become so much more simpler. And, you know, a lot of things, when I have no other way to think about it, I think about like my granny, if it was my granny, or if it was like my child, or if it was somebody I really cared about. Everything's patient focused. You know, I start there before I even consider the staff. That is my job, and that is what my role is to do. But I also get to consider everybody as well, and what is actually right, because sometimes what patients believe is right is not in their best interest.
Yeah.
Sometimes the things that are the easiest for the nurse is not in the patient's best interest.
Yeah.
And getting everybody to sort of see that, you know, this is the path that, you know, would be of least resistance and what we should do for everybody.
Yeah.
And let's get back on track of it. It is a nice thing to sort of be able to step into that kind of mindset and see this as a bigger picture and not just at the bedside. And the supervisor role, that is one of the sweet spots about it.
It is a sweet spot. You told me when I first got one was like, this will prolong your nursing career or allow you to prolong it probably indefinitely, because, you know, essentially none of the problems are our problems after we clock out. Because we're not going to answer any, most of the 9 times out of 10, probably 99 out of 100, the buck does not stop with us. So we are just here to pass it sounds bad, but like to pass the buck to the appropriate person.
We're the mediators to get people in the right spot. Sometimes I enjoy it where I can pass on things to the patient or the patient's family about how to properly, you know, escalate things from their view. Sort of like the guy from The Incredibles when he was giving the lady advice about like taking care of her insurance claim.
Right.
You know, and then sometimes it goes the other way, and I just, you know, try to make sure that the right thing is done. Really, it's making sure the right thing is done, because it's a thing about virtues that, you know, if I do the right thing, I can go to bed at night. I can sleep without a single worry in my head. You know, if I just feel like I've done the right thing at the best of my capacity and not left anything out there, you know, I can walk away completely relieved. I don't carry anything with me, and I know that I've made the best decision with the information in front of me. And, you know, sometimes people are not happy, but that's the context in which I make all my decisions.
It makes life a whole lot easier if you're just like, I'm going to do the best thing I can think of in this moment, because it's easy to Monday morning quarterback any situation, especially in healthcare. And it doesn't even have to be, you know, brought up. It might happen before Monday morning, but, you know, in that moment, did I make the right decision? But
you know, they can overthink it all they want, but sometimes in reality, you have to make that decision. And you have to use what's the best information in front of you. Sometimes more information comes out and
usually
you're wrong.
More comes out.
But, you know, you have to go with what you've done. And you have to be confident in those decisions.
This is maybe a bit of a slow pitch down the middle, but I mentioned earlier I'd done some reviewing of some literature on the future landscape of healthcare. In the next 2 years, one nursing agency not governing. It's something similar to the ANA. I can't remember their acronym, but basically they said in the next, like by 2027, there's an anticipated 900,000 nurses leaving the profession of a current, I think it's something like 4.5 million who are in the profession now. So nearly 1 million being lost. and then you have...
So it's about 20%.
Mm-hmm. So on top of that, nurses typically lose about 18% after their first year. 18% of new grads quit after their first year or within their first year in the profession. It's actually really alarming because even on the physician side, you have a significant decrease. A lot of younger doctors want to retire early, and the need is going to increase, or patients and increasing need for medical resources is going to increase by something like 34% by 2036. The population is supposed to increase by 8% by 2036. So you tie that in with like the aging population, essentially this inverted pyramid because of...
I know about that.
Yeah, I feel like, you're a smart guy. Like I feel like this is nothing new to you, but de-escalation is going to be so much more important because the crisis situations are going to be so more prevalent in the years to come in healthcare because resources are short and expectations are high.
Well, that's the problem with everything, right?
Well, yeah, but how do we approach that moving forward? Like, what does Robby Lewis say as he's rolling down that river?
You don't address that after it's already happened. You don't look for nurses when you're already there. That is something that you should teach children about: Motrin, Tylenol, healthcare, health prevention.
Mm-hmm.
That should be taught at a fundamental level at high school.
That should be younger than that, probably.
Or, whenever CPR, those kinds of things should be taught to the children at a public level,
mm-hmm.
Early on, so that there is less, we would call it abuse of the healthcare system, but some of it's just purely people's lack of understanding.
Yeah.
But if you can cut that out and teach people what's available to them and use
mm-hmm.
that to the best of their abilities and manage it in that way so that there's less demand on the healthcare system, that's a start.
Yeah.
Nutrition is a big component
mm-hmm.
of our healthcare and lifestyle as an American culture,
mm-hmm.
which is different than some other cultures.
You gotta know know where to get your fresh local beef.
Well, McDonald's has still got a pretty good quarter pounder.
Oh my gosh!
But
I hope you. I'm not gonna ask that question.
You got to be able to taste the competition.
Oh, okay. There you go. That's it. It falls wildly short of that Lewis Farm beef.
That's a whole nother crisis. That's population, and that's a systems thing that really you can't react to it like that. Healthcare, you're gonna have a normal ebb and flow of people coming in, people leaving. It's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think it's a really amazing job and they fall into the wrong space and they don't get the right experience and they leave it. Sometimes people use it as a stepping stone for other roles and step out of bedside care into something, different. But nursing is a wonderful job. It has a lot of opportunities that you can deal with patients, you can not deal with patients, you can do research, you can find all sorts of things. It's just, it is a tough job. It can be demanding, but it's awful rewarding in that sense too. But yeah, the upcoming population crisis and the lack of staff and stuff, we as a country, it's
a global problem.
We need to educate the basic people on, proper use of antibiotics. It needs to be a fundamental kind of everybody knows
a
this
big shift
stuff.
Culturally on that.
And it needs to be that kind of shift so that when people do come into the hospital, they really do genuinely need IV fluids. IV antibiotics,
Yeah, so basically
casting.
people aren't abusing the resources that we do have because they're so finite.
Yeah, not overwhelming it with
what we might call nonsense.
Uneducated kind of things that can be prevented out.
Yeah. So more education, and maybe the school system would be a good place to start. I wonder, I have so many questions.
Yeah. Then you have people who are in healthcare that actually feel more like they're taking care of people that with purpose. You don't have so much burnout, and you're still going to have that general kind of unmet expectations, realistic kind of expectations, mismatch that upset people. That's never going to change.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to appease everybody, but as a cultural,
it needs to be a cultural
we need
shift.
to have a shift so that we can help meet that demand in some other way. It's not a straight kind of answer.
Yeah. I think you're right. Man, this has been a fun time.
Yeah, man.
Was it as bad as you thought it was going to be?
That took me a little while to warm up. I didn't know what to do with my hands. They just kept coming up.
Why do you think I took my sock off midway through this podcast?
Yeah, I was just...
I should have given you a pen. It does a lot. It helps a lot. You just, play with... you click it, spin it around.
Looking at your refrigerator.
Yeah, that freezer, I gotta get rid of what's in there.
This mess. It's such a mess.
Dude, this basement is a mess.
This.
I know. How shameful of me to invite you down into this dungeon. But now, so you're gonna come back on? We could talk a bit more on The Art of War by Sun Tzu and some Carl Jung and some other
Alan
people.
Watts is where it's at.
Huh?
They're all good, but Alan Watts is where it's at.
Alan Watts?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with Alan Watts.
Well, he was a preacher. You should know about him.
Was he a Catholic preacher?
No,
I'm maybe a little biased.
No. He helped modernize like Zen and Tao and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, gotcha. He brought somewhat of bringing Eastern philosophy to the West.
Mm-hmm. Help people understand it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think what's funny is one of my favorite fellas, Venerable Fulton Sheen. He talked about this a long time ago. He was a big deal back in like the 50s and 60s. He was a TV star, like Bishop, like it's a cool deal. But he basically pointed out that there's a lot of Eastern philosophy and at least a lot of Eastern spirituality where there's a lot of meditation and a lot of stuff that people kind of gravitate towards. He's like, it's somewhat comical that people leave Christianity for those things when the reality is all of those things are intrinsic to living like a true like Christian prayerful life. Like that meditation and those like spiritual experiences are so intrinsic to the spiritual life within Christianity, which I thought was, seems like it might be an interesting conversation we could have on the next one.
So here's my belief on that. Religion, in my belief.
I think we got to save this for another episode.
Well, it's simple. I can summarize it.
All right, we'll leave a cliffhanger.
We're all in the river together.
Yeah.
Some people are swimming. Some people are swimming with it. Some people are swimming against it. Religion's like a boat, and you're up there, and everybody's rowing. And you can go wherever you want, but you're rowing against, like, questions. What if? What is the universe? What is God? What is all that? Where I'm on a sailboat, just capturing the wind and just floating. Just up and down the river, wherever it goes, wherever it takes me.
What if?
And the wind is doing all the work, and I have no questions.
What if religion is the sailboat and God's the one blowing and you're the one rowing? What if maybe you're the one on the rowboat?
Sailboat. I'm using the wind. I'm learning to capture the flow of the universe.
We're talking about boats. You just went on a cruise. I'll try not to rub salt in the wound again. I was accusing myself before some people the other day.
I got another joke for you, though.
Oh, yeah?
You sent me a question about symbolism and, like, the cross and stuff.
I did?
Would it be more appropriate if I wore a question mark?
instead
to
of a
go with
cross.
my agnosticism. Then I could be like the Riddler, and we could play Who's Batman.
So what you're saying is we definitely need to have you back on. We'll talk about religion and politics.
I'm not going to talk about politics.
We can talk about religion.
We're done with that. We're done with that. Haven't turned the TV on since the election.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm TV. What are you talking about? The only
I haven't
reason,
even listened to a podcast about it.
yeah, but no, we could have. I think we could have a good time talking about philosophy, and I think it plays in pretty well with the de-escalation stuff too. Is this, philosophy is like the study of human existence. I might be butchering that. It's probably got a different definition, but I'm a nurse, not a philosopher. So, but yeah. So you're gonna come back on, Robby? This is what everybody wants to know. You're gonna come back on?
That's what everybody wants to know.
That's yeah.
Yeah, I'll come back on if you invite me.
Yeah, totally. You're definitely gonna come back on.
I don't need to be like.
You won't get another rosary or another book on practicing the presence of God, but.
Am I supposed to use this? What am I supposed to use this for?
It's just for you. Prayer.
I don't enjoy this kind of.
Say what? Oh my gosh.
Sorry, that should be. You should cut that.
Not cutting anything, Robby. This is not getting cut at all. We're just running straight out. No, we'll teach you how to pray a rosary.
The beads.
It's a good. Those are not Mardi Gras beads. That's not what you use those for.
I'm simple. I don't understand all this.
Yeah, it's a good, very easy meditation that gives you some. It'll add to your level of zen and peace, man.
Then I have to answer to somebody.
You're gonna have to answer to somebody either way, buddy.
Not the way I'm looking at it. I just go with it. What happens, happens.
Yeah.
When I go to bed, it goes to darkness. And
aren't you familiar with Pascal's wager?
No, but I'm not a dick. I try not to be a hateful person. I hedge my bad side away.
I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it.
We're gonna try it. Well, I'll be praying for you, Robby.
I'll take it. I don't turn down a compliment. I won't turn down a prayer.
Well, that's like you said, you're not a. No, we'll have Robby back on, people. Don't you worry. We'll get him back on. We'll talk religion, not politics, because that's just lame.
Politics.
That's painful. What did I just do? I hope I didn't just delete what we got going on here. That'd be a terrible. But he'll be back on, people. You just wait. Thank you for tuning in to Vitals and Virtues. If you're listening to it this long, way to go. We'll catch you on the next one. St. Francis de Sales, pray for us.